The call up for women to aid in war work came in 1941, to fill the desperately needed places left by men in all walks of life who were now in the forces, from bus drivers to farmers to shipwrights and of course factory workers. By 1943, an estimated 90% of all single women and 80% of all married women were now involved in war work. Their dedication and hard work ensured that both the soldiers at the front and the people at home had food to eat. The RAF had the bombers they required, the Navy had the ships, and the Army had the tanks and ammunition to fight and win a war. But today we're going to look at something slightly different. A couple of family relics made in these same factories, but during slower times and work hours, to give these women something to entertain themselves and their families in the evenings. Built by my grandmother and her sisters while working in various factories across Manchester in the Second World War, we have these to begin with. Now these, as you can see, are Dominos. But they're made of Bakelite, which is a type of plastic. It developed in about 1907, I believe, but it never really caught on until the Second World War, when it was needed in masses. And it was used in everything from the fighter pilots' goggles to field telephones and just all manner of materials. It was one of the most one of the big steps forward. It was the beginning of the plastic age, really. What they are is, well, as I said, they're Dominos. But they're quite unique. They're made with offcuts from various things they were working on. Well, at least I hope they were offcuts. I'd like to hope I didn't have members of my family pilfering from war factories in the country's hour of need. That wouldn't be as good. And quite like another story for another time. We'll cover. That's a different side of the family, different person years later. But we'll cover it one day. Yeah. I just thought I'd show them because they're quite nice. They're quite unique. You know, handmade Dominos made out of Bakelite in a war factory. I'd like to know if any of you have ever seen any other ones before. I'd like to know how prevalent they are. So it's an interesting set. As you can see, they're mostly your standard Dominos. We'll go over the construction of them in a moment. And well, as I'm sure any of you who have seen Dominos, you will see they go up to 666, which is your fairly standard, buy them in any shop, 666. Which would make you think, then why make them? If you can buy them in any shop, why make them? Surely you'd have some around. Well, the answer is they came from a rather large family, and because of that, these ones go up to 999s, which I think makes them quite rare. Yeah, they had a large family. I think they had about 9 brothers and sisters all in total. I never met any of these people. I'm afraid they passed away long before I was born. But yeah, they had 9 brothers and sisters. They had one of the brothers. He was in Italy in the Second World War and was wounded at Monte Cassino. Lost his eye there. Came back and he worked in sort of like customs in I think Heathrow when it was first starting out, until he got caught slightly smuggling something and got fired. But again, another story for another time. Just make sure you fly into your own airport if you're a customs officer, is all I'm going to say. So they're not perfect, you know, they're showing their age. I've got a couple that a few bits have fallen off, but what do you expect? They're 70 plus years old now and they're all handmade. The process of making them I'm not fully sure for. Obviously these bits are Bakelite, as I've said, and they've just probably see that better on the blank one, that they've cut a ridge into it to sort of separate the two sections. The metal bits, I'm not sure. I've heard various stories. Some people have told me they were the sort of the primers used to fire the bullets, but I'm not sure on that. It could just be a little off-cut bit of metal they've put in, or a little rivet. Still, I sort of like this stuff. It's interesting. It's not just that it's a family bit of history. All this sort of social history of things is great because you know, history's not just, you know, great men giving a single speech or important battles. This is how people lived their lives and how they got through it. Also, what I think is very interesting about these is well, we still use them. We used them last Christmas, and we've used them for most Christmases really that I can remember, and the way things are going, we'll probably be using them again this Christmas. Yeah, so they're good, they're still in use, they're all here. We've been through it several times and there's none missing, which just adds to this really, that they've been kept around for so long. You know, they're all intact, they're largely intact as themselves, other than the odd couple missing here and there, as I've said. But, you know, they were built to last, and it's great. It's just really nice. The tin, not really the point of the video, but I'll show it if anyone's interested. It is old, but it's not same age as the Dominos. It's early 50s by the looks of that. Hang on, better focus. Yeah, the late King George VI. So this would be probably made just around the time the current Queen was coronated, so early 50s. And if you've got any questions about these type of things, I'll try and ask some people I can, if they can get anything. So if you can put any questions you've got in the comments, and I will try and get back to you as soon as I can once I've spoken to some people. Right, we'll move on to our second item in a moment. And here we have our second item, again built in a very similar way. Of course, if you're playing a game of dominoes, you need something to keep score with. And that's what this is, a scoreboard, pegboard, pegmark board, whatever you want to call it. I've seen it with various names. And I'm not good at this, but basically you start on, let's say you start on this end for purposes of demonstration, and you put your stick, normally a matchstick, it's the most common thing most people had, especially then. And as you score your points, you move up, and once you've got there, it's the first one to get into these, I believe. As I say, I'm terrible with the rules of dominoes, I believe that, but as you can see, it works. All the holes are still good. Now, it's probably a little bit easier to tell what this is made of. It's obviously made of brass and wood. We'll start with the brass, and then we'll move forward to the wood. As I said, various factories across Manchester they worked in, one of which would have been ammunition factories, obviously, huge part of the war effort. Now, what I believe this is an offcut of the brass. Once again, let's hope it's an offcut. The same thing that was used for the 303 rounds. You know, it's everything in the Lee Enfield rifles, to the Bren guns, to the Vickers machine guns. It was the staple round of British and Commonwealth forces in the Second World War. And I've got one here. This is just one of these dummy, sort of unusable key rings. I use it for a display. But as you can see, that looks like the same metal to me. So I would definitely say that's what that is. Offcut of brass turned into a pegboard, then just put in with some screws and attached. Now the wood. Various family stories about what this bit of wood is. I've heard it was a part of a home that was bombed out. I've heard it was part of a school that was bombed out. I've even heard it's one of the pews from a church that was bombed out. We'll never know. You know, this is just a bit of wood with maybe at one point was varnished. It's not really ever going to be able to tell what this was. They're all good, you know, they're all nice little stories, but it's equally as possible that this was a bit of wood they found lying out the back of the workshop and just thought, well, we'll use that. Interesting, I'd have to wonder if these holes here, now I've looked at them, were testing before they put these in to make sure the drill went through properly. I don't know. Yeah, as I say, we'll never know the truth of it, but as that Western says, when the truth comes up against legend, print the legend. And I suppose we'll have to in this situation. Yeah, I just thought I'd show them as a bit of a change to the normal presentations, because they just show that they were people, don't they? You know, they weren't these infallible generation that was constantly stuck to their guns. You know, they were, in their downtime, they were making little fun things for themselves and their families to enjoy. And, you know, I say during off times, sorry about the noise if you heard that, that was the dog. You know, I say during off times, but I wonder how many of these were, oh, the foreman's not looking, let's get a couple cut in before he comes back round to see. Right, gonna call it quits here, because my phone, what I'm recording on at the moment, I'm going to try and get better equipment as we go along, isn't playing ball. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Hi everyone, just wanted to say I'm sorry if that was a little bit rushed at the end there. I film on my phone at the moment, and it had like 9 minutes to get all that filmed in. With any luck with editing, you're not going to notice too badly, but fingers crossed for that. I just wanted to say thank you for watching. Something new I'm trying, this slightly more on-camera kind of stuff. For some stuff I've got and some things I want to get, you'll see. All will become clear in the new year when my new series I'm thinking launches. A lot of this I'm going to cover in a sort of update video towards the end of the year, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Once again, please feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy, and I will see you on my next presentation. This is a little bit of history.